Hi folks, this is Rose from In Rose's Garden, and today we're going to make some spiral wire earrings. I'll show you what I mean when we turn down. But these are really cute. They are really, well, it depends on what you use on them, whether they're cute or they're elegant, but they're very pretty. And I hope you're going to like them. They're pretty easy. If you can make a spiral, you can make these. And if you can't make a spiral, I'm going to show you how. Okay, the earrings are going to be similar to this, the one with the unicorn here. As you can see, there's a spiral piece hanging down from the wire that hangs our beads on. And it's going to be quite similar to this earring. So the first thing we're going to do, of course, is make our spiral. So let's put our unicorn here away, and we'll look at what I have out. So what we have is two 1-foot pieces, 12 inches, of square 21 gauge bare copper wire. So that's going to be our spiral. And then we also have two 6-inch pieces of 20 gauge beadle-on German style wire. This is going to be the piece that goes up the and puts the beads on. This piece here. And then we have ear wires, 2 beads for each earring, plus 1 spacer for going between the two. And then I was originally planned these with flowers on the top, but I thought how cute it would be to put a teapot and a teacup. So one of them's going to have a teapot and the other one's going to have a teacup. So they're going to be a little asymmetrical, which is a little bizarre for me because I usually always do some stuff with symmetry. And those are the items we're going to need. Some charms, our wire, the other wire, some beads, and some ear wires. Now, if you wanted to make these shorter, instead of putting the bead strand on, you could either just put 1 bead on, no beads on at all, and just use jump rings to hook your ear wires on, and that would make it much shorter. And that would be the easiest way to do it. These beads, by the way, came out of the Jessie James Beads Mini Mix Marscapone. So that's where we got our little brown beads. I got brown because, hey, it's tea. And then for the tools, you're going to need your flush cutters, your round nose pliers to start your spiral, your flat nose to help you with your spiral, and your chain nose. And I always use my smallest sized of the stepped bell making pliers for my loops. However, with this one, I will use the small one for the top where it hooks onto the ear wire, and this next size up to hook it to the spirals, because you don't want it to be too small. If it's too small, you can't get it around your spirals. So those are the tools you'll need. So let's get started with making these. First thing, of course, you want to do is to get one of your pieces of copper wire and your small, oh, I didn't say your round nose pliers, did I? But we will need those because we need to start our little spiral. So get it right there where you don't even feel it. It's right there, and then just make a tiny, tiny turn till it comes all the way around and starts spiraling. Once you get to this spot where you're going to have, it's going to be in the way when you try your spiral, get your flat nose out, hold it tightly, and start bending. Now, I prefer to more or less use my fingers to push things around, but then I have a thing for doing that. So just push on one while you round with the other. And you want to get this up so there's only, maybe an inch of wire left, because that's going to be our second spiral, that leftover inch. where it's going to hang from our bead strand. So just keep spiraling. Now you can do this with round wire too. It doesn't have to be square. I just like the looks with the square. Heck, you could even use twisted wire probably, though you'd want to be careful using twisted wire, unless you twist it yourself. The kind that you buy is multiple little strands that have been twisted together, and they will untwist on you on the ends, so you have to be careful there. Oop, it didn't want to stay on the spiral, so let's get that better. There we go. Now they will try to unspiral a little bit, so we are going to, that's one other thing I forgot to tell you. You want your bench block and your nylon hammer. Now, like I say, we want to leave enough to do a small spiral up here at the top. So we're getting close to that now. You want to leave yourself enough to do at least 1 or 2 small spirals up there. So there's this one. And I think we're pretty close to where I want to quit. I may add just a teeny touch more. But as you can see, it's trying to bow out here, and that's why we want to get our bench block out in just a minute. Okay. Squish this a bit because it's trying to pull out, as I mentioned. So now we get to the other side and we want to make another, but we want to go the opposite direction. So start with your tiny little spiral again. And then we will probably should have measured that to make sure that I got the same amount on both sides, but I didn't. So here is our spirals, and now we'll want to get our bench block out and work harden that. So let's get that baby out. Have it tucked in a little hollow. Now, I can't do it because my legs are obviously to the other side, but I advise when you're work hardening something and you're going to be hammering it, that you put your block as close to the legs as you can. That will keep it from getting too much in the way. Oops, what did I knock over? Well, I'll find it later. Okay, this has popped out a little bit, as you can see. This one spiral is trying to come out, so we're going to take our flat nose pliers and squish it down and hammer it a little more. She's really trying to come out now. So then we'll push her back in place some. There we have this one spiral. Now we need to make the other one, but first I think we're going to just make this whole of this one earring, and then we will go back to doing the second one. So what you want to do now is you want to take one of your gold wires, and you want to make this just like you would a regular wrapped loop. So we'll take about, push it over. Now, like I said, we're going to use our bigger of our bell making sides because we want a bigger loop so we can go through our spiral there. So we'll go up and around, drop it down, and bring it around. Now we're going to want this to be open because we need to drop it into our spirals. So once we get that in, that's fine. Now we have one more thing we need to put on, and that is our charm. So we'll drop it down from the top this time, since I didn't put it in first. Bring it down through this little slot. Come on, baby. And let it hang in front. As you can see, now it's in front of the spirals. Now, if you want more spirals to show, just use a smaller charm. That's fine. So now we'll hold this and wrap this around, like 2 or 3 times. Come on, baby, don't be difficult with me. Now, I always try to cut my excess wire off in the back so that it doesn't show so much if someone purchases these. And now tuck it in. So there's the start of our earring. Straighten this out because it's a little crooked. There we go. And that upper loop is a little bit high, so just put your pliers in the loop and push down if that happens. There we go. And now we'll put the beads on. So we just have the bigger bead, the spacer, and the smaller bead. So it looks like this. And then we're just going to make a normal loop to put wrapped loop at the top to put our ear wire in. So we'll now use the smaller of the 2 bell making sides. Around we go. And now I had 6 inches, and obviously I could have made do with 5.5 or even 5 or 4.5. So now, because this is a definite front and back on this earring, you'll want to make sure when you slide your ear wire up that you start with it backwards, because as it goes around that loop, it's going to change directions. Come on, Rose, get it on there. Okay, so see, it comes up here, snaps in, and it's facing the other direction then. So again, we want to hold our loop, and I tend to switch hands because I like my dominant hand to do the wrapping. And now you can wrap this by hand if you feel comfortable doing it wrapping by hand, or use your pliers. And then when we get that wrapped, be careful when you wrap, because remember, these are glass beads. Trim your excess off and tuck this bead in, this wire I should say, in. And there is our first earring done. So now we got to go and do the second one. So of course it goes just the same as the other. We're going to start with our copper wire. We're going to get some of my tools out of my way. You want to start your little loop by making it very tiny, right at the edge. Make sure your wire is not poking you out. And do your tiny little loop here at the very end till it meets and starts doing your spiral. Then get your flat nose. Now, as you can see, my Well, maybe it's about the same, but I think this little hole might be a little bigger, but it is what it is. So let's start wrapping. And wrap until you get your wire all the way up to the top again, like you were on before. And I'll try and remember when I get close to the top to measure how much I left up there, so that we know. But if you can make a spiral, you can make these earrings. They are very simple, but they look really sort of classy and elegant. Especially if you use a more fancy charm on them. It doesn't have, you know, you could use, I'm just using some simple brass charms, but you could use a crystal dangle or any number of different pieces. But you just hold it with your flat nose pliers, hold it still in your loop, and just spiral and just twist with your pliers as you're turning with your hand. And I think we're pretty close up there now, because we are starting to try and undo here. And the easiest way to check to see if you've got it about is just to bring the other earring in and compare them. And as you can see, I'm pretty darn close there with the one below it. Maybe just a hair's breadth more. And like I say, you can see it's starting to pull the spiral apart, trying to pull the spiral apart now. So you want to just hold it, and this is gonna start, like I said, being a problem. So let's see how much is left. I think it's about 2 inches from the looks of it. 2 inches right as it comes out of the spiral. So now that we've got that one done, again, we take and make the spiral to the other side by going in, making the little loop going the other direction. You could make this loop a little bigger if you want, because it is the one going to hold your other wire in place. Now this is about where the other one is done, so we need to spiral just a little bit more with this one. And since it's just a little, there we go, that should do it. Though this one's a little bit wrapped tighter, so you can do this with your fingers if you need to. I find that my fingers are one of my best friends when I'm doing any wire work. So now it's time to get our bench block back out and hammer this one. So here's our bench block, and here's our nylon hammer. Flip it. Okay. Now you can see this one has pulled apart a little bit, and so I am going to work it with my fingers back into place a little better, hopefully. And since this spiral is going in this direction, I'm going to turn this to the other side so the spiral goes the opposite direction in the other earring. So it's like this. And this really does want to be up higher. So let's get her down just, there we go. I think that'll do it. Okay, so next step, of course, is to use our gold wire. And we're done with our pliers here, so we can put them away if you wish to. So let's do our bend. Our bigger of our two steps of the small steps, up and around and over, drop it down, bring it around, check to see if it's lollipop shaped, and then make sure you have this open just a bit so you can get your wires in. Come on, baby, go in there. I may need to open it just a bit more because we don't want to rack our spiral out. There we go, we got her. And now we want to put our teacup on. So it will hang around the front like that. As you can see, the teacup is going to let more of the spiral show than the teapot did because it's not quite as long. So anyway, let's wrap this. And I can see that I got my circle out of whack a bit here, as you can see here. So we're going to need to see if we can get that back in shape better. I think this just needs to come around some. We wonked out our lollipop, didn't we? So then we bring this around. I think we had 3 on the other side. Let's yep, we did. So we'll cut this extra off. Tuck it in. Bent my wire there, didn't I? I'm going to have to straighten that up. Okay. Okay, so we have the brown bead, the spacer, and the little other little bead. There we go, and then we will put our ear wire on and be finished. Now we're going to the smaller of the sizes, in and around, drop it, bring it around, and then here we are. Remember, backwards, on, backwards. And then snap it into place, and then it's in the front. And now all we need to do is wrap these, the wraps on the top. This needs to be tucked just a bit here. There we go. And we cut the excess off. Being careful not to get anything else I have before. Got my loop, my ear wire, any number of things if you're distracted and you don't pay attention. And remember, you want to be careful so you don't break your bead. And this is a little crooked here, so we're going to straighten her some. And there is our second earring. So now we have our teapot and teacup earrings. Aren't those cute? Like I say, if you didn't want to make them different from each other, you could use any charms down here. I just thought the teapot teacup thing was would be cute, and I think it is. You could also use, like I say, some flower charms or another crystal dangle down here. And if you used a crystal dangle, you could even use a couple of them, and then the spiral would show better. But, yeah, there we are, our spiral teacup earrings. So that was our spiral teacup earrings. This is the teacup itself. And then we have the teapot. Teacup, teapot. And as you can see, as these wiggle, and they can, the spiral will show more sometimes or less sometimes. And if you wanted your cup to be down a little lower, if you're using a cup and a teapot, you could put a jump ring here hanging to your teacup as opposed to hanging it there, and that way it would hang a little lower. But yeah, there they are, our spiral teacup and teapot earrings. And I think those turned out quite nicely. So I see this one has a little bit of a bend down here, so I'm going to fix that quickly. Maybe that was my imagination. Looks all right. Give it just a teeny touch. So anyway, there is the teapot and the teacup. And I've hoped you enjoyed this little tutorial on how to make a spiral earring. Now, if you wanted, you could just do a smaller spiral or just the spiral. Those make a really pretty earring with just the spiral. You don't have to add the charm if you don't want to. And if you did a loose spiral, it would be even more interesting. So anyway, this has been Rose from In Rose's Garden, and we've been making spiral teacup earrings. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.